He just said at his press conference he has considered the 14th Amendment. Is that something you'd be opposed to? Or?
Well, yeah. I mean, really think about this. If you're the leader of the free world, if you're the only president and you're going to go to a 14th Amendment to look at something like that, I would think you're kind of a failure of working with people across sides of the aisle or working with your own party to get something done.
Did he tell you guys that he was going to do that?
No. He didn't bring that up.
That was Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, and you should trust him because he's something of an expert on failure. Now, Kevin McCarthy has failed to get anyone to take his Republican debt ceiling plan seriously. Now President Biden is telling McCarthy and Republicans to go kick rocks, and Kevin is having a little bit of a temper tantrum.
Whether you pay the debt or not doesn't have a damn thing to do with what your budget is. What your budget is. Where you're going to spend money, how you're going to raise the money, what are you going to cut, what are you going to... They're two separate issues, two. And let's get it straight. We're trying to hold the debt hostage to us to agree to some draconian cuts, magnificently difficult and damaging cuts.
Biden is standing firm. He's told Congress that Democrats won't be making any cuts to the current budget and called for lawmakers to send him a clean debt bill before he's willing to talk about budget cuts. And for now, it certainly looks like Biden intends to hold that line. Biden's tough stance on the debt ceiling has some in the media worrying that it's better for Democrats to sell out working families if it means getting Republicans on board with increasing the debt ceiling. Take a look at Biden's response when he's asked about playing ball with the GOP.
I've said to the Republican leader, here's the deal. Take the debt limit, pass it like you did 3 times when Trump was president, and he increased the whole national debt for 200 years by 40%.
Republicans would argue, and that Donald Trump, at the very least, they would say, played ball. You're not willing to play ball, they would say.
Played ball. What? He ballooned the debt. He created unemployment. Look, when I came to office, we had incredibly high unemployment.
And on Wednesday night, Joe Biden got another thorn in his side from none other than former president and sexual abuser Donald Trump. Trump was asked about his thoughts on the debt ceiling at his CNN town hall, and he urged Republicans to drive the U.S. economy right off a cliff.
So just to be clear, Mr. President, you think the U.S. should default if the White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans are demanding?
Well, you might as well do it now because you'll do it later. Because we have to save this country. Our country is dying. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people, by very stupid people.
You once said that using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge just could not happen. You said that when you were in the Oval Office.
That's when I was president.
So why is it different now that you're out of office?
Because now I'm not president.
Now, it's important to understand exactly what happens when the United States defaults on its debt. Trump told his CNN audience that the debt ceiling was, quote, just psychological, and that defaulting would lead to a few bad days on the stock market. The reality, as you've probably guessed, is way worse. Defaulting on our debt would spike the unemployment rate, according to nonpartisan economic analysis. In Michigan, unemployment would jump from 4% to nearly 11%, and red states like Arizona and Florida would lose the most jobs by far. You didn't pick it up. Those are red states Donald Trump needs to win. But it doesn't stop there. With the feds unable to pay their bills, things start to get real shaky around the world. European and Asian markets would spiral as the New York Stock Exchange cratered. Countries around the world would find themselves in acute financial peril as global markets freeze up. Our default would also effectively halt American support for Ukraine, a scenario that would likely cascade to our European allies too. That's such a real threat that even some Republicans are begging Kevin McCarthy to exclude Ukraine funding from his dumb plan. And you can be sure the Kremlin is watching all of this real close. With Republicans unwilling to budge and Biden standing firm, the White House has few options left. But in a surprise to even progressive legal scholars, Biden is considering an argument that would shake up the entire debate. He wants to invoke the 14th Amendment.
The question, I have been considering the 14th Amendment. And a man I have enormous respect for, Larry Tribe, who advised me for a long time, thinks that it would be legitimate. But the problem is it would have to be litigated. And in the meantime, without an extension, it would still end up in the same place. I'll be very blunt with you. When we get by this, I'm thinking about taking a look at months down the road as to see what the court would say about whether or not it does work.
With the country hitting the debt ceiling in as little as 3 weeks, Joe Biden is running out of time to act. And things don't seem exactly encouraging, because Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is already preparing for the worst.
We have been using extraordinary measures for several months now, and our ability to do that is running out, and we will start to run down our cash, and our current projection is that in early June, a day will come when we're unable to pay our bills unless Congress raises the debt ceiling.
And that was Janet Yellen at her angriest. I mean, just look at the rage built up behind those eyes. Terrifying.
We would simply not have enough cash.
Joe Biden is now faced with a challenge that affects not just the United States, but the health and political stability of our entire world. Republicans are fine plunging that world into chaos if it means hurting Joe Biden. Once again, Democrats will need to solve this one alone. And if you enjoyed that story, how about some more? Check out this clip of even more Republicans behaving badly. And as always, leave me a like and a comment below so you can let me know what I should cover next.